expected, Hurricane Milton is beginning to weaken a little bit as it approaches the coast of Florida, but I'll show you why it is likely to still be a major hurricane with very dangerous conditions coming up.
If you're under evacuation orders, get out.
That's a familiar refrain from state and federal officials as Hurricane Milton closes in on Florida. How millions of people are scrambling to get to safety.
And state lawmakers are expected to approve hundreds of millions of dollars in Helene recovery funding. How the money will be put to immediate use.
We'll give you this live picture right now of well-known Skyway Bridge in St. Petersburg, Florida. Look at that picture. Officials have closed the bridge as a safety precaution as conditions deteriorate. Hurricane Milton is still a Category 4 storm and is expected to make landfall tonight. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. So ominous looking there. Florida Power and Light is in place to help restore electricity to affected areas. The utility is staging its emergency response trailers in Palm Beach County in advance of the storm.
We have team coverage of Hurricane Milton. Michelle McConaughey is in the WRAL Live Center. We do want to begin with Elizabeth Gardner with Milton's path right now. Elizabeth.
So we're watching very closely to see exactly where the center of circulation makes landfall, because in any situation that is paramount to who sees the most damage. But in this case, we're going to be talking about, is it going to make landfall in a heavily populated major city, or is it going to be down the coast a little bit where there are plenty of people, but just not quite as many? This is a look at the radar in Tampa, and boy, look at those tornadoes. I mean, really a tornado outbreak that is going on right now. A number of those tornadoes have already been confirmed. So it's a real tough situation there across sort of south central Florida. You can see that rain band that is edging toward Tampa. So that rain is getting heavier. But as we take a look at the satellite picture, you can see some real changes. Early this morning when we went on the air at 4:30, this storm was very symmetrical. It had a big area of that dark black shaded area, which is where all the strongest part of the storm is. It had a well-defined eye. And if you look over on the left side of the storm, on the west side right now, you can see it looks like it's weakening. We have strong winds that are starting to tear it apart, but it's also pretty close to making landfall. It's under 200 miles offshore right now and moving pretty fast. Northeast at around 17 miles per hour. It is still Category 4 at 145 mile per hour winds. It may continue to strengthen somewhat, but it is still likely to be a major hurricane. And of course, you can see those tornado warnings there, really causing some problems for parts of Florida right now. By the time it makes landfall, which is likely to be overnight tonight, it may be Category 3. But it's still a very powerful storm, still a hurricane moving across Florida and then out into the Atlantic. It is a tropical storm eventually. So we've started to see things change just a little bit this morning. Tampa is now at 8 to 12 feet, and just south of there, 10 to 15. So the highest storm surge may end up being just south of Tampa and Tampa Bay. But still, even if they get 8 feet of storm surge, it is going to be a disaster there. We're going to talk more about what they're expecting and, of course, talk about our pretty weather, too, coming up.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, severe weather already happening in the state. Look at this tornado touch down in Broward County. That's on the eastern part of Florida. That's near Fort Lauderdale. This large tornado was captured by Florida Department of Transportation. This was near I-75 along what's called Alligator Alley in Broward County. The National Weather Service said this twister was a dangerous tornado. The tornado did cross over the interstate at one point, but did not appear to impact any populated areas, not any severe damage from this tornado, which is crazy because this is a very big tornado there.
Tornadoes in front, and now Hurricane Milton surging toward Florida's coast. But not everyone is evacuating. Some are not able to. Many homeowners are riding out the storm. WRAL's Chris Lovingood joins us with how the state is preparing for search and rescue operations. Chris.
Well, Renee, 6,000 Florida National Guardsmen are being deployed, plus another 3,000 Guardsmen from other states. Now, as the National Guard is positioned in its place to perform any sort of search and rescue missions for Milton, people in Florida are preparing for the storm surge. In some places, that could reach up to 15 feet. About an hour ago, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said there is still time to evacuate, but that chance is going away. As it does, the people who have decided to stay risk being exposed to potentially catastrophic conditions.
We stayed last time. Let's just stay again. So here we are staying. Are we nervous? Very. Do we make the right decision? Who knows? But we also have a plan just in case.
That was Michelle Gemma you just heard from there. She lives in Fort Myers, and that city was hit hard during Hurricane Ian in 2022. You'll recall that clearly. And it's slated to feel the effects of Milton as well. And though the building where she stays is hurricane resistant, it is right near the Caloosahatchee River. And that means the risk of seeing flooding is essentially guaranteed.
From Milton to Helene's impact in western North Carolina. Today, state lawmakers are expected to pass an emergency relief bill for Helene. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie is live at the Legislative Building, where lawmakers are expected to vote within the hour on what is a $250 million measure. Laura.
Jeff, legislative leaders stressed over and over this morning at the press conference that this will be the first round, only the first round of what will be months and years of recovery bills, recovery aid from Helene. The money will go to state, county, and local governments to help them continue to provide emergency relief and services. This morning's press conference featured lawmakers who represent the affected area of the state. Many said their districts are devastated. Entire counties without power or cell service, no grocery stores, water treatment plants literally washed away. Republican Jennifer Balcom represents Henderson County, one of the hardest hit. She said Western North Carolinians are tough, resilient people who will rebuild, but it will take time.
At times we hate asking for help. I know that myself. And I promised I wasn't going to cry. But people are still needing help even though they don't ask for it. And this is just a start. This is a start to help get people what they need.
The $273 million relief package also extends more election flexibility to all 25 counties included in that federal disaster declaration, not just the 13 worst hit, as the state elections board did. Voters in those counties will be able to return their absentee ballots to any county elections office or polling place in the state. It also includes $5 million in emergency funds for the upcoming election. The Senate is poised to take the first vote on this bill at any moment here. After that, it'll go to the House and is expected to be on Governor Cooper's desk later today. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
Today, we'll get an update from state leaders about the recovery effort from Helene. It's been pushed to 2:30 instead of 1:30. Governor Roy Cooper and EMS leaders will speak at the Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh. WRAL will be there asking questions about relief efforts, among other things. And we'll let you know what the governor and state leaders have to say in our newscasts starting at 4 p.m. The North Carolina National Guard has grounded a Black Hawk helicopter crew after the aircraft flew low over a donation and supply area, scattering much-needed items. The Black Hawk helicopter was delivering generators when it happened. The relief site was set up by locals in the area and set off a firestorm of anger on social media. The National Guard says it's working with a volunteer group to assess the level of damage.
Vacationers are getting mixed messages about the North Carolina mountains. Visit NC, the state's tourism authority, says vacationers should avoid the counties that are highlighted in red. That shows where Hurricane Helene recovery efforts are still happening. You see them here on this map. Several people, though, have reached out to WRAL's 5 on Your Side, saying their rental companies are telling them to come anyway and saying they won't reschedule or refund bookings.
The flooding, the people, the rescuers, everybody up there, they don't need a bunch of tourists up there looking around.
And tonight on WRAL News, how rental companies are handling the crisis in the mountains and the rights customers have when canceling those rental bookings.
Next at noon, addicted to scrolling. The growing number of health officials concerned about the negative mental health effects of social media.
Also, Milton is whipping up the seas. What it's like to be on a cruise right now with an active hurricane nearby.
Plus, how RDU International Airport has become an evacuation hub for people leaving Florida. At 12:30, how Milton has affected East Coast travel.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
this noon with this live look right now. This is the southernmost tip of the United States. It is Key West, Florida. That buoy there signifies that southernmost tip. It is a popular spot for tourists as they come, and there have been some there in just the last few minutes. But you see the waves. They are angry. They're crashing up over the edge there. And we take this picture every time we see some of these storms whip up there, and that is not even near where the center of Milton is.
The U.S. economy added more jobs than economists expected for September. The U.S. added 254,000 jobs last month. Restaurants and bars created the most jobs for the month. The unemployment rate fell to 4.1%, down 0.1 percentage point.
A growing number of mental health experts sounding the alarm over the negative effects of social media. Ted Lindner examines why so many people are seemingly addicted to scrolling.
With Thursday marking World Mental Health Day, psychology experts are warning of the addictive properties behind constantly scrolling on social media platforms.
Doom scrolling is this idea that we oftentimes will, keep scrolling, literally, social media sites, news sites for negative, that are negative on topics.
According to Dr. Anna Baker of Clemson University, engaging with social media can release dopamine in the brain. While dopamine is referred to as the feel-good chemical, it could trigger opposite effects while you scroll.
Oftentimes we want to stop. We just can't. So that dopamine actually makes that the compulsion, like the need to keep doing it, but it's not pleasurable.
And while you may come across a good chunk of positive posts in your feeds, algorithms can still cause you to stumble upon pessimistic content, which can alter your worldview if constantly consumed.
The more we're hit with all this negative information, then it biases us to see everything more negatively. We're going to kind of overestimate that negative world, negative future.
These red flags come as more than a dozen states filed lawsuits Tuesday against TikTok, alleging the app is designed to be addictive to children and tarnishes their mental well-being.
The younger kids have social media. Then they have access to this negative information at a younger age, and things like depression and anxiety.
That was Ted Lindner reporting, and stepping away from social media can be so hard no matter what your age for a lot of people. Experts suggest limiting your time on these platforms and go for a specific reason.
A cruise ship passenger is giving us a unique view of conditions on the sea whipped up by Hurricane Milton. Check out these monster waves. This video was taken from a passenger on the Royal Caribbean Harmony of the Seas. It was supposed to make several stops, including in Costa Maya and Cozumel, Mexico. The crew canceled a few ports of call. All of the pools are closed, and much of the entertainment has been canceled on the ship as well. Take a look at this new image of Hurricane Milton from NASA. The storm could land a once-in-a-century direct hit on the Tampa Bay area. Astronauts on the Dragon Endeavour were supposed to land Monday after a 7-month stay at the International Space Station. Milton is the latest roadblock in their homecoming. The crew is looking forward to a possible splashdown off the coast of Florida on Sunday.
Somewhere down there is that cruise ship. Not a lot of harmony on those seas, I can tell you that. Elizabeth Gardner is at a peaceful place, the WRAL patio, but we have to keep an eye on what's happening with Milton, Elizabeth.
We do. Boy, this time tomorrow, that storm will be almost off the coast of Florida, and there will likely be so much recovery to have to do. We'll take a look at the satellite picture. I want you to look at the left side of the screen there. You can see where the clouds are white and pink and purple. That's where we have dry air that's starting to filter into the storm, and it is causing it to weaken, and that is definitely good news. The problem is it's so close to the coast of Florida right now. It's probably about 10 hours or so, 10 to 12 hours of making landfall. So it doesn't have a lot of time to really weaken considerably. It has really created a lot of tornadoes in south central Florida. Some of those now around Cape Coral right there on the coast. But we saw the video that Michelle McConaughey showed us in the live center of that monstrous looking tornado. We've seen a lot of those. I would say, more than what seems normal. At the center of circulation, they're about 190 miles off the coast, and a lot of those really strong rain bands starting to push right onto the coast right now. It has winds at 145, so it is still a Category 4, but maybe Cat 3 when it makes landfall. It's moving northeast at 17 miles per hour, but even, a Cat 3 storm is a major hurricane. And the storm surge is likely to be the biggest danger from this storm. And the problem is this has been such a big storm that it's already picked up a lot of water, and it's pushing that water toward the coast. So even if the wind speed slows down a little bit, it still has all that water in front of it, and it's just likely to do a lot of damage in terms of the storm surge. So at 8 p.m. This evening, it's sitting just offshore and then moving across the Florida Peninsula still at around 8 a.m. tomorrow, and then moving offshore still as a hurricane even out into the Atlantic. But again, we're not looking at any real impacts here. The storm surge has changed up a little bit. So Tampa dropped off just a little bit, but I mean, it's still 8 to 12 feet, but the strongest or the highest storm surge may be just south of Tampa as you head down toward Fort Myers, which of course saw so much damage just 2 years ago with Hurricane Ian. So they're still trying to recover. Very strong winds with this storm too, as much as 110 just south of Tampa, and then a big area in central Florida of hurricane force winds up to around 110 miles per hour. So lots of wind damage here, lots of storm surge, and a lot of heavy rain too. We're still talking about 5 to 10 inches of rainfall with this system. Take a look at what we're seeing around here. I tell you what, we need a little breeze out here on the patio. We've seen a nice drop in our dew point. It's beautiful and it feels really great in the shade, but I'm talking in this long sleeve dress, it's only 72 with a dew point of 48, but when it's still and you're in the sun, it does feel warm. High temperatures will be in the mid 70s for this afternoon. 76 in Raleigh, 75 Durham, and 79 degrees in Fayetteville. Checking our temperatures tonight, or this afternoon, I should say first. 66 in Roxborough, 69 in South Hill, 71 in Fayetteville, 70 degrees in Clinton. Tonight, it's going to be pretty chilly. 48 in Durham, 42 in Roxborough, 51 in Fayetteville. These temperatures will be maybe 3 or 4 degrees cooler than what we saw this morning. Now, watch Futurecast. We'll likely have some cloud cover from Milton streaming northward. And so don't be surprised if later on this evening and overnight we end up with cloudy skies and then first thing tomorrow morning. But as the storm starts to pull out quickly into the Atlantic, we'll see more sunshine. And we have a bright forecast coming up for the next few days. Hour by hour tomorrow, we'll see winds gusting about 20 to 25. That's thanks to the high pressure to our north and Milton to our south. It's going to compress the winds and make it fairly breezy for us tomorrow, but it's pretty quiet out there right now. We're going to see some gusty winds along the coast, some rip current and beach erosion. We're not looking at any rain here, and certainly not along the mountains either. Everything just looks quiet with just some breezy conditions. Looking ahead, the coolest morning will be Friday at 46 degrees. We're going to talk a little bit more coming up about the current situation in Florida.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, just a terrible, horrible video posted to X by Florida Highway Patrol showing a dog tied to a fence on the side of I-75. They rescued this dog that was left tied to this fence. Look how deep that water is. That dog cannot get away from that fence. It was found off of Interstate 75. Authorities for days now have been urging residents in Milton's path to evacuate, and almost always with reminders to account for their pets. There are shelters that are open for people who need to go, and a lot of those shelters do take pets. This is just a terrible situation. That dog was rescued.
I'm sure it was just terrified. All right. Thanks, Michelle. Rumors are rapidly circulating about relief efforts in Western North Carolina, and now a local EMS director is stepping in. Today at 4, WRAL's Monica Casey talks with Orange County's Emergency Services Director about his efforts to dispel harmful misinformation.
Plus tonight at 5:30, Rocky Mount's Energy Resources Division has been busy sending people to help with power restoration efforts in Asheville. Well, now some are headed to Florida. We hear from them ahead of their trip south.
And amidst all the storm coverage, we have some really good news to share with you. WRAL anchor Lena Tillett and her husband Christopher are happy to announce the arrival of their new bundle of joy. Here he is.
Oh, please welcome Zayden Kobe Robert to the WRAL family. Lena sent us this adorable picture along with a message that reads, "We are elated to share that Zayden Kobe Robert is here." Yes, he is.
Look at that close up. Oh, those cheeks.
Zayden was born October 8th, weighed more than 8 pounds, measured more than 20 inches long. Perfect.
He is beautiful, just like His mama, Lena, is well after being in labor for roughly 24 hours, and she is most grateful for the incredible care of the doctors and nurses at UNC hospitals in Chapel Hill. Lena, congratulations, and we are so happy for you. Masai is going to make a great big brother.
Congrats, Lena and Chris.
Woo! The Department of Justice is suing LA Fitness for discrimination. The federal agency claims the chain discriminates against people with disabilities by not making its equipment and facilities accessible. The DOJ says the LA Fitness has not corrected accessibility features at some of its locations and even charges extra fees for some of its services for people with disabilities. Equal access at the facilities is required under the Americans with Disabilities Act. LA Fitness says it plans to fight the lawsuit. Boeing is withdrawing its contract offer after a breakdown in talks with the union. 33,000 workers walked off the job over wages and other improvements nearly a month ago. Union members rejected the recent offer. No new talks have been scheduled. Industry analysts say the strike costs Boeing $1 billion per month.
A growing number of employers are considering covering blockbuster weight loss drugs like Wegovy. According to a recent study, more than a quarter of employers are considering adding coverage for those drugs for weight loss in 2025 or 2026. Some employers that provide coverage for anti-obesity drugs often put up guardrails. Many require employees to receive prior authorization or try other weight loss methods first. The EPA has finalized a rule that requires all lead pipes from the country's water systems to be removed within 10 years. That move is expected to reverse the health disaster that has contaminated generations of Americans drinking water with lead. The ban will cost up to $30 billion during the next decade and will impact around 9 million pipes across the country. Water contaminated by lead can cause brain damage, heart disease, even cancer.
It is a dire situation in Florida where Hurricane Milton is taking aim at the state's western coastline. This is video from Collier County of the steady stream of cars on I-75 as the Category 4 storm is expected to make landfall tonight, bringing life-threatening storm surge. Elizabeth Gardner will be back with an update.
And some people opted for last-minute flights out of the storm's path. We will explain how airport closures in Florida have affected people traveling through RDU. And here is a look at your winning NC Education Lottery numbers on your screen right now. We'll be right back.
Hurricane Milton is closing in on Florida's west coast as we look live right now at St. Petersburg, and the outer bands of the rain hitting that area right now. Millions of people already evacuated in and around the Tampa area. Roads and bridges are closed as the state holds its breath for a direct hit.
We'll give you another live look right now as we take a look at Key West, Florida, because that is the southernmost tip. It's regarded anyway as the southernmost tip of the U.S. and the Keys. And look at it there. That's a concrete buoy. There are people out there as those waves crash ashore. Can you believe that? They put that up there in 1983. It's been a tourist attraction ever since, and it doesn't stop during hurricanes, I guess.
It certainly doesn't. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner tracking the major hurricane for us today from the WRAL weather patio. And Elizabeth, this storm is carrying a lot of force and life-threatening conditions with it. We've already seen some impacts.
Yeah, it really has. So we are definitely looking at impacts from this storm. Storm surge is going to be the biggest impact right now. It's a Category 4 storm with winds at 145 miles per hour. And that storm is likely to weaken slightly before it makes landfall. But the thing about storm surge is this has been a powerful storm. At 4 a.m. this morning, it was a Category 5 storm. So it's had all this time to be picking up water and pushing it forward. And even if the wind begins to slow down a little bit, it's not not going to really change that a whole lot. The biggest thing is going to be where the storm makes landfall. Where it makes landfall, everything to the south, especially close to the eye, is where we're going to see the highest storm surge. And that means the highest amount of water. In some places, we're talking about 10 to 15 feet above sea level. And of course, that's going to be, 1-2 stories high. So there are a lot of parts of the coast of Florida there, especially potentially from Tampa down toward Fort Myers, that are going to see a lot of heavy impact with this. Also, with winds at potentially 135 to 140, this, of course, will cause a lot of wind damage. And we're also looking at, 5 to 10 plus inches of rain. When I looked at it a little bit earlier, already we've seen as much as 4 to 5 inches of rain in some places, and not even really along the west coast, but even up around Jacksonville had already seen 3 to 4 inches of rain just an hour or so ago. And the other thing that we're seeing with this is a number of tornadoes. They've been popping up really central and southern Florida just over and over. And of course, we've seen some ground truth to those. Several of those have been confirmed already. So a real dangerous situation for folks there in Florida. I have an animation that does a good job of showing exactly how storm surge works. I'm going to show you that coming up, as well as one of our computer models that shows potentially where exactly the center of the storm will come on shore. And of course, that has a big meaning to folks in Tampa or south coming up.
And back here in the WRAL Live Center, we want to take you back out to St. Petersburg, Florida. You can see conditions really starting to get worse there. Things are starting to pick up, the wind and the rain starting to pick up. I haven't seen many cars, let me tell you, and that is a good thing. FEMA administrator says that the agency is ready. They are ready to respond and help save lives. She said President Biden and Vice President Harris have directed her to do everything possible to be there for Floridians in the coming days, and that FEMA has sufficient resources to respond to Helene as well as Milton. Biden is calling evacuations in the state a matter of life and death. A lot of these mayors are begging people to please leave, go to shelters. There are shelters open. There are 149 general population shelters open throughout the entire state of Florida.
Several airlines have issued travel advisories ahead of Milton's arrival. Hundreds of flights to and from airports in Florida are canceled, and that is affecting travel at RDU, where you're looking live right now. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey reports quite a number of people are arriving from Florida to get to safety.
Time is running out for people to evacuate. Several airports in Florida are closed today, including Orlando, Lakeland, and Fort Myers. And we're starting to feel those ripple effects here at RDU. There are several cancellations already. People in Florida were booking last-minute flights ahead of Milton making landfall. We're expecting this storm will impact airports nationwide. Most of the flights that are canceled here at RDU today are Florida flights. We spoke with Raleigh native Lauren Tuck. She now lives in Tampa. Tuck was able to fly back home to Raleigh after her original flight was canceled, but some people weren't as lucky.
I'm really nervous. I know a lot of other Floridians are nervous as well. Just be safe, escape if you can, but I understand a lot of people can't. Even some people I work with, they don't have the resources. They're not able to leave. So thoughts and prayers.
We'll be keeping track of cancellations and delays here at RDU throughout the day. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News at RDU.
Milton poses a serious threat of 10 to 15 feet storm surge in and around the Tampa Bay area. However, some people there say they plan to ride out the storm at home.
For us, we would rather withstand the storm than, live in an arena with 100 or 1,000 people, or, in motels, hotels with 3 dogs. It's just something that we've never, I don't want to say we don't fear the storm. We certainly fear the storms and the hurricanes. We just choose to ride it out.
Those who are planning to stay are making last-minute purchases of plywood, sandbags, generators, and gasoline. Officials say homes built in 2002 or later may be more resistant to hurricanes as long as the roof, hurricane straps, doors, and windows are in proper condition.
Coming up, we'll introduce you to a beloved Durham teacher. How her childhood dream led to a lifelong career.
Plus, a band based in Asheville that rose to fame in America's Got Talent wants to help its community rebuild. The benefit concert happening tonight in Raleigh. You can watch WRAL News live anytime on WRAL.com or the WRAL app on your streaming device. Nothing but sunshine out there in the skies over downtown Raleigh. Such a beautiful day. You're looking live at the Legislative Building, where state lawmakers are on the verge of approving a $273 million relief aid package for Helene victims in western North Carolina. They are expected to approve it, and as soon as they do, we'll send a push alert to your phone and we'll have coverage on our later newscast. You're watching WRAL News, available on YouTube TV and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. This week's Teacher of the Week wears many hats at her school, but her most important title is teacher.
Hey, WRAL's Ken Smith introduces us to a longtime educator who teaches from the heart.
So those of you that sit on the carpet when we're on the board, come sit on the carpet.
KF Godelution, or Miss G as she's affectionately known, always knew she wanted to be a teacher.
Ever since I was little, I always played school with my friends, and I just loved school. I loved my teachers.
These self-affirming phrases on her door greet her students every day. She first volunteered as a parent at Southwest Elementary School in Durham when her son was in school here after teaching in other states. That was more than 20 years ago.
And so they knew that I had that background, and they asked me to come in and take the teacher's place who went on maternity leave, and they never got rid of me. I've been here ever since.
Along with her math teaching duties, she also heads up the school's Project Lead the Way, which is a science-based initiative, and she's also the school's tech expert. But duties aside, Ms. G's heartfelt mission is shaping young minds.
The kids bring a lot of joy and happiness into our lives as educators. They come in with smiles. We get to greet them daily. They come in, they're sponges. We love to give them that knowledge and watch them grow.
Ms. G, congratulations. You are WRAL's Teacher of the Week. How about this?
Thank you.
You are welcome. Ken Smith, WRAL News.
You really can tell she teaches from the heart. Miss G, just in case you're wondering, KF, it's not short for anything. Those initials are her first name. If you would like to nominate a teacher, you can go to WRAL.com and enter Teacher of the Week in the search box.
Tonight, Asheville-based band Ashes and Arrows joins local businesses for a special benefit concert supporting Western North Carolina. After the break, the Harmony with Hope organizers join us in our studio with how you can help.
Plus, Hurricane Milton is threatening Florida's west coast with 10 to 15-foot storm surges, 130-mile-per-hour winds. It is expected to make landfall as a Category 4 major hurricane. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner has the latest on its anticipated landfall.
Here in North Carolina, there's been an outpouring of donations, supply drives, as well as benefit concerts. And one takes place tonight in Raleigh over at the Horse Complex at the NC State Fairgrounds in Raleigh. It's the Harmony with Hope benefit concert, and it features the country rock band Ashes and Arrows, who are based in Asheville. And joining us now is the sponsor from A&M Premier Roofing and Construction, Managing Director Cody Cowan. Cody, great to have you here. Just a matter of days pulling a benefit concert together here in Raleigh, and this is all in partnership with NC Eat and Play. Talk about how this all came together.
Yeah, so when we knew that something needed to be done in the Asheville area, we jumped on how we could find out a way to support operations out there without being actually physically there. So we wanted to raise awareness, raise funds, and also collect donations from our community, both businesses and individuals. So as a veteran-owned and operated company, that's what we tried to do. We tried to support our community as best we could.
So before we get to the music at the benefit concert, you talked about collecting donations as well. There will be trucks there, right? And you're encouraging people to bring some
Right, we're going to bring
donations.
our fleet of vehicles to the benefit concert so we can collect as many supplies as possible for the donations. And we'll also have food trucks on site to support people when they get there to get some food, some good food for tonight.
And it promises to be a wonderful night of music. So Ashes and Arrows, that band sounds familiar. We followed their rise on AGT. It was exciting to see them. And of course, they'll be performing. You'll also have a special guest there as well. Tell us about that.
So this year we were lucky enough to partner with a NASCAR Craftsman Series truck driver, Spencer Boyd, and we sponsored his truck in the Charlotte Drive. So he's coming out to support us now. It's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship at this point. So if you're into NASCAR, come check us out. It's a one-night only show tonight. Do you want to talk about the times?
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But all proceeds of this concert will go directly to a nonprofit in Asheville. How will that money be used?
Yes, so Beloved Asheville is going to take all the donations and disperse them as necessary. They've already done a lot of great work in the community out there. We're really happy to be partnered with them on this.
Well, and I know it means a lot to your company, A&M Premier, to be a part of such a wonderful event. I think a lot of people just feeling like they want to help in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, as a veteran-owned and operated company, we love to be of service. That's what we're going for at all times. And we knew we couldn't be on the ground in Asheville because they were asking people to stay out. So we wanted to find a way where we could support efforts out there as quickly as possible.
Okay, and you can support this benefit concert, Harmony with Hope, tonight at the State Fairgrounds. Gates will open at 5:30. The concert starts at 7. Tickets start at $20. Children 12 and under can enter free. And you were also telling me that city workers and first responders, they can go for free as well.
Yeah, that was the special announcement tonight. We wanted to help them out as well.
Fantastic.
So you've been helping us, so please come and you can get in for free. And I'm going to bring my kids as well, so it's going to be a good time.
All right, well, Cody, thank you so much to your company for your support for the folks in Western North Carolina. I hope it's a great night.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Jeff?
There's another benefit concert for Western North Carolina residents. It takes place later this month. North Carolina natives Eric Church and Luke Combs will headline the Concert for Carolina at Bank of America Stadium. That's in Charlotte. The concert is October 26th. Church even signed over the publishing rights for his newest single, Darkest Hour. So all that money from the song will help communities for years to come. Tickets for the concert, which also featured James Taylor and Billy Strings as well. Concert for Carolina, they go on sale tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock is the time for that. Elizabeth Gardner, let's take another lap outside to the WRAL weather patio and see what's going on and where that track of Hurricane Milton is.
Yeah, before we let you go, we're going to talk about Milton one more time and then a little bit more about what you can expect heading out the door tomorrow morning, because we're going to see a cool start to the day. This is a look at satellite and radar, and you can see Milton is sitting about 190 miles offshore, but it is moving pretty quickly to the northeast at about 17 to 19 miles per hour at this point. What I want you to focus on, we're going to zoom in closely, and you can see these little cells that are popping up with this rain band that's coming in and multiple tornado warnings. They started this morning at around 6 or 7 o'clock, and they just continue to form. So we have a lot of what we call supercells that have popped up here, and they are producing tornadoes. A lot of those have been confirmed tornadoes, and a lot of them there in the middle of the state. That's a fairly unpopulated area, but once you get a little closer to the coast, some of those around Cape Coral and Port Charlotte are going to be in more populated areas. So not only are we going to be worried about storm surge, but wind damage, as well as tornadoes, a lot of heavy rain. Again, the stats again that we got right at 12. We got new stats at 12. Winds at 145, so that's still a Category 4, moving northeast at 17, 190 miles southwest of Tampa. So Category 4 now, potentially Category 3 as it makes landfall, and that's likely to happen this evening overnight. Still likely to be a hurricane crossing Florida and then out into the Atlantic and eventually becoming a tropical storm as it moves eastward. Still not expecting any impact here whatsoever, minus just a little bit of wind. Now, where the center makes landfall is extremely important in terms of what the outcome is. So we're going to start this off.
As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today.
At 2:30 today, we'll get an update from state leaders about the recovery effort from Helene. Governor Roy Cooper and EMS leaders will speak at the Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh, and WRAL will be there asking questions about relief efforts, among other things.
While Florida braces for Hurricane Milton, several airlines have issued travel advisories impacting flights at RDU. Hundreds of flights to and from airports in Florida are canceled. People arriving to Raleigh from Florida tell WRAL they are extremely nervous about what this hurricane will do to their home.
North Carolina National Guard has grounded a Black Hawk helicopter crew after that aircraft flew low over a donation and supply area and scattered about all the stuff on the ground there, those much needed items. Black Hawk helicopter was delivering generators when that happened. The relief site was set up by locals in that area and set off a firestorm of anger on social media. National Guard says it is working with the volunteer group to assess the level of damage.
Our pet of the day is a 4-month-old confident and independent young lady from Cat Angels Pet Adoptions. Liesel loves to do her own thing, but also enjoys cuddling and playing. She's a wonderful girl who would do well in almost any environment. And while she can be really silly, she loves to snuggle. If you'd like to meet her in person, just fill out an application on the Cat Angels website.
Today at 4, WRAL's Monica Casey talks with Orange County's Emergency Services Director, who has stepped in to help stop the spread of harmful misinformation regarding Helene aid.
NBC News Daily is next on WRAL, and your next local news update in 30 minutes.
You can always get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Have a great day.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.